Welcome, everybody, and thanks for being here on Skain's Domain. My name's Adam Meeks, and I'm the video producer at Jazz at Lincoln Center. And tonight will actually be the final episode of Skain's Domain before a summer break of sorts. We'll be back in September to dive back in. And in the meantime, we'll be launching a variety of exciting new summer programs and ways to remain connected to the music. So please keep an eye out on our website and social media pages for these new summer programs. Tonight, Wynton is joined by a collection of some of the world's foremost trumpet players to discuss legendary trumpeter Lou Soloff and tell stories. We'll hear from Jon Faddis, Randy Brecker, Earl Gardner, Michael Rodriguez, Kenny Rampton, Marcus Printup, Sergei Nakariakov, Ryan Kaiser, Greg Gisbert, Alex Sipiagin, and Dave Taylor. In a minute, I'll hand it over to Wynton, our special guest for the evening, and later on we'll conclude with a Q&A portion, and I'll give instructions on how to ask a question once we get to that point. So without further ado, Mr. Wynton Marsalis, take it away.
Okay, thank you so much, Adam. Thanks everybody for joining us. You know what we say every week, we like to discuss issues significant and trivial, and with more passion as the issue is more trivial. But this week we're talking about one of our very greatest colleagues, great brass player, and I want to say Dave Taylor is not a trumpet player. He's one of the most fantastic bass trombonists and trombonists in the world. We're joined by royalty, brass royalty, all trumpet players, brass players who play their instruments on such a high level. Young genius of the trumpet, Sergei Nakariakov, is in Paris. So they're saying it's past his bedtime, but he's going to stay up to talk about our fantastic colleague that passed away a few years ago, the great Lou Soloff. Any of us that played with him or knew him, he filled us with the type of collegial spirit and feeling of joy and love that we always want to experience again and again. The level of his trumpet playing, his musicianship, his engagement with music, the way he showed love to younger and older musicians, how he would go out and hear people, the way he would sit and listen to others play. He was the very model of citizenship as a musician. So I'm not going to go on and on because we have a lot of great musicians to hear from. And believe me, everyone up here plays the hell out of their horn. We're going to start with a master who was how I was introduced to Lou was through this man. He doesn't need his playing needs no introduction, but he's going to tell us some fantastic stories. Mr. Jon Faddis.
Thank you, Wynton, and hello, everyone. Lou Soloff was my best friend for many, many, many years. When I first came to New York, it was Lou Soloff that took me under his wing and taught me how to read. I didn't know. But he would pull out things from Stravinsky, which I had never seen. Stravinsky, something for two trumpets, and I'd look at it, and it was like in a totally different language than I was accustomed to. We became best friends. We shared a very similar sense of humor. I would say that it was all love and joy because Lou was the type of person that was focused on one thing, Lou. Earl Gardner can tell you a little bit later, Randy Brecker can tell you a little bit later about how Lou lost privileges for the trumpet section, by knocking over all four stools in Carnegie Hall during and there was also, Lou was, I don't think he had a hateful bone in his body. I remember there was one person that Lou didn't think had hurt him, and it was someone who would always talk about people behind their backs and things. So Lou hired him for a gig because Lou was the contractor. And the following year, when the band met again, this other guy was the contractor, and Lou wasn't in the band anymore. But Lou didn't hold that against him. He might say, yeah, well, that's a drag. But his main focus was always the trumpet and music. And I remember being his roommate. And it would be, he when he was with Blood, Sweat, and Tears, he hired a decorator to decorate his apartment on 52nd Street. And they told him his basement was soundproof. Now, it wasn't soundproof. And Lou would be at 4 a.m, da 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 da. I would put my head under the pillow. Always practicing, always wanting to go better, to get better. And the one thing I would say about Lou is, as great as he was, he didn't always exhibit the confidence that his greatness allowed. He was very humble. And he would say to me, John, I can't play a double B flat. And I'd say, that's because, Lou, of what you just said. If you say you can't do it, you can't do it. So here, just practice this soft and it'll be okay. And the next thing I know, he was at Carnegie Hall playing a tritone above the B flat, E above double C at the end of the piece. That was Lou. And I would say the happiest I ever saw him was after the birth of his daughters. He was just so happy. But he was also happy hearing great young trumpet players. He took me under his wing. He introduced me to Wynton. He introduced me to Sergei. He introduced me to Ryan Kaiser, Ambrose, so many trumpet players. And he just loved trumpet. And he had about 40 trumpets collection, maybe more, and he would always say, man, you got to check out this, it's the greatest trumpet. And he'd get his horn up and he'd take the horn out and none of the valves would work because he hadn't picked it up in 5 years. So Lou was one of the most humble, loving, and kind human beings I ever met, and I think about him every day and I miss him to this day. And turn it over to Randy Brecker, or is it Dave Taylor?
Dave Taylor. I echo everything Jon Faddis says. I met Lou Soloff on 7th Avenue. I think we were all hanging out with Billy Cobham. Alan Rubin introduced me to Lou, and he wanted us to be brothers, actually. And by halfway across 7th Avenue, we were already teasing each other, and it lasted for about 50 years. Lou would always call my house, and I'd call him. We were on the phone probably literally 3 to 4 times a day, most days over the last 40 years or so. I always, when I had students over, I always pretended that I was embarrassed that he would interrupt us and blah, blah, blah. The students loved it, but I was so proud that Lou Soloff would call me. And he taught me, I think, more about music after I got out of school than anybody. He introduced me to Faddis. Faddis and I and Lou were actually roommates on Thad Jones's band. And that was an insane situation. There was one time we had a suite together. It was my wife and I on one side of the suite, Soloff and Faddis on the other side of the suite. I didn't improvise when I was in Thad's band. That language was unfamiliar to me at that time. I had come through a classical thing and I just joined Thad's band right out of school, blah, blah, blah. So Lou was always trying to get me to play. So here was one time in the house, in the apartment, in the suite, that I started to play, and he laughed at me. And I jumped him, and I started strangling him. And Faddis had to pull me off him. I guess it might have been all the game. I don't know. But when we were on the road, we had to invent a rule. It was like that Mandrake thing: no knives and no water, because we would hide behind doors. We would come in, or I would come in. We would attack each other. We would lose accounts in New York. When I say accounts, I mean recording sessions and things like that, because we would have water gun fights during the studio time. I was on a road with George Gruntz's band, and Lou. We were in Munich. We were in what's that city with the Reeperbahn? We were in
Hamburg.
We were at Hamburg.
How do I know that?
It was me and Marcus Belgrave, rest his soul, Marcus, and a couple of guys. And Luke got us into this place, and all we had to do was order a bottle of vodka. But the most important thing was to knock on the door and say, "Wolfgang sent us," and that's what we did. We were in a brass quintet, Alan Rubin, Lou Soloff, myself, Peter Gordon, and a great tuba player named Tony Price. We rehearsed for months. We rented Carnegie Recital Hall. Alan cracked a joke during the first piece. Lou had mucus coming out of his nose all the time. The concert was over. By that first tune. And everybody went home, and that was the end of that. I actually had Faddis and Soloff on a piece by a woman named Lucia Lukashevsky at an all-women's convention. It was really a horrible thing because we got lost. I don't know if you remember this, John, but we got lost in the middle of the piece, and we kind of, everybody started laughing, and we kind of, she forgave me, but this was in front of like a whole Hunter College kind of a thing. Lou was into transcendental meditation, and he had a big alarm clock. It looked like the alarm clock looked like what Captain Hook threw into the crocodiles. You know, it had those two bells on top. And he would be calm and peaceful for about 20 minutes. And all of a sudden that thing, bells, all hell would break loose and he'd wrap it. And that would be the end of the thing. He wanted me to get involved in transcendental meditation. So he took me to a convention of about 400 people. We sat in the middle, of course. He said something to me. I said something to Lou. We started laughing and they threw us out of the meeting. But he kept on going, and that actually happened. I hate to say this, but at our dear friend Alan Rubin's mother's funeral, actually, John and I were sitting next to each other, Tony Price and Lou, and it was like that Mary Tyler Moore thing where we all started breaking out laughing over nothing. You know what I mean? It was one of those horrific, sad, joyous things. I wrote something down here. There was one time, John, I don't know if you remember it, but both Alan and Lou were called by some big shot band and they were negotiating price. Could it have been Benny Goodman and you became Sid Bernstein and you called up the management and started negotiating for the two of them. And after you negotiated and got the price up, neither of them accepted the job. and I mean, I can go on and on about the whole thing, but I'll stop. I just have to say that I cried the loss of our friend because I think of him. I think of him daily. He insisted that I stay in the music. When I wanted to leave a band, he insisted, don't leave the band, go back out on the road. He just wanted me to keep my head in the music. I was honored that he always wanted me to play bass to his lead. He loved Snooky Young. Snooky Young danced, Louis danced. And Louis danced is in my mind to this day, man. Just, God bless you, man. That's all. I don't want to get down on this thing. I want to stay up.
Well, you know, Dave, Wynton plays a Monette trumpet. Didn't you meet Mr.
Louis took me to, again, we were like children, you know. Louis took me to Monette's factory in Chicago. And Dave had a gong. It was a big empty room. And when he wanted you to start something going, he'd hit that gong, and then you're supposed to play the trumpet. That son of a bitch hit that gong. I took off and jumped right in the middle of that thing, and we just started wrestling. We were children together. We just wrestled. Gil Evans, we were throwing toilet paper at each other in the Munich airport. And we were running around Gil Evans. Gil Evans, man. We run around Gil Evans, and finally we both stood up in front of Gil Evans, and Lou said, well, he started. And I said, well, he started. No, he started. And Lou just said to us, well, you know, boys, you don't have to participate. I miss him.
Oh, man.
Yeah, man. I don't know who goes after me, man. I took up too much.
We're going to Randy.
We're going to me.
Yeah,
All
Dave.
right. Those were great stories, guys, and I sure love Lou. He was such a close friend and such a character, but what a trumpet player. He could play anything. You know, before I came to New York, I think this was maybe 2 weeks before I was moving, I met the pianist and drummer Barry Miles and at Phil Woods' camp. This is back in 1965 or 1966. And I went over to Barry's house. He heard me play a little, and he played me a tape of his quintet. And it was a great trumpet player on there. And it turned out it was Lou. I said to myself, uh-oh, I'm going to compete with this. That's the first time I heard him. He was just incredible on this quintet tape that Barry Miles had. And, you know, I was thinking of it earlier. I don't remember the exact moment I met him, but we were both, the first time in my recollection was I had moved to New York. I was playing a lot at the Blue Note with Duke Pearson Big Band, and Lou was still in the National Guard. And I remember standing outside of the club. I think this was the first time I met him, and he got the call to sub. He was off that night, and he came in and subbed in the band, and I think for one of the cats, I think Marvin maybe, and I happened to be seated right in front of them because they couldn't fit all the 4 trumpets on the bandstand. And I forget the name of the tune, but this was one of the hardest tunes endurance-wise. It wasn't even a lead part or a solo part. It was just a long part with a lot of notes with not a lot of rest, kind of a solo within a solo or a solo within a soli. And he just played just great, man. And I heard that sound right in my head. And I looked around to the back, and Bert Collins just looked at him like, did you hear what he just played? So that was my introduction, I think, to Lou's playing. And late, just by when he was in town, he would play in a lot of the big bands as a sub. I got to know him really well and just fell in love with the guy. There were so many stories besides his musicianship. We kind of gave each other lessons. When I left Blood, Sweat, and Tears, I managed to talk him into taking my place. He had actually been previously called. I was with, I left to join Horace Silver, and I coerced Lou into taking my place. He didn't want to do it, really. He didn't want to play in a rock band, and although it was for what it was, we were getting paid every week, whether we worked or not, $100 a week. I told him, it's 2 $50 gigs you don't have to do. So by the end of this rehearsal, we were rehearsing with the Joe Henderson Big Band.
Oh, wow.
I had him talked into doing it, and sure enough, he joined the band. They went, and I joined Horace Silver, $250 a week, $147.50 after he took taxes out. He didn't tell us we had to pay for our hotels when we worked. Next thing I know, Blood, Sweat, and Tears went into the studio, did their second record with Spinning Wheel, that great Lou Soloff classic solo on that tune, and all the other hits. Blood, Sweat, and Tears, #1 for 52 weeks on the charts, playing all the Spectrum. His salary skyrocketed. He bought the apartment, the 2 floors. You know, we were taking lessons with Edward Troidel. We would take a bus out to New Jersey. Lou started picking me up in a limo to go out to the lesson, you know, cackling the whole time. He'd show up in the limo, we'd take a limo back and forth to the lesson. But I wanted to, what a character. He's everyone's straight man, you know. Remember that time with the Carnegie Hall Big Band? I won't talk too long, just a couple Carnegie Big Band stories. Yeah. Lou came out front and standing there with Faddis, and Faddis noticed his zipper was down on his pants. And, you know, Lou turned around and zipped up and offered Faddis his hand as a handshake, and Faddis was on the whole audience. But the classic one, now Faddis brought it up, but I was standing next to him, and then I'll turn this over, was the classic, it was all-star cast playing Dave Grusin's West Side Story. Now, the previous concert, I forget who was there, Lou managed to knock one stool off the riser, but it was in a part of the show where it was loud, but it wasn't that noticeable. Somebody was playing a solo, it was loud. So we kind of all took it in stride. It was typical Lou. But this next concert had a string section, people in from LA. George Young was there from LA. Gloria Estefan was out front on stage. Dave Grusin kicked off the tune. It starts, booty bop, da-be-dop, grand pause, and I saw Lou out of the side of my eye futzing around. I was standing right next to him. The grand pause, 2 stools this time crashed to the ground in the grand pause. And of course, we kind of lost it, but we kind of held our composure. Dave wanted to go on. We start the thing, and that wasn't all. About 5 minutes later, I guess his music got stuck together, so he thought he was on page 3, but he had actually turned to page 5. And he came in with a long, high, blasting high note, in the complete wrong place. And at that point, we lost it. Then we lost it. One by one, we just collapsed. We kept going, though. And that wasn't all. And this one is hard to believe. I don't know how he managed to do this, but he had his piccolo on a stand right next to him, and somehow he got the piccolo trumpet up his pants leg. This is true. I don't know how he got it. So I had to hold him steady while he managed to lift up his leg, lift up the leg, get the piccolo out of the pants leg without knocking it over. And that was just one concert, guys. Oh. So I don't want to take up too much time, but I think we're all familiar with this, seeing Lou like this. One pair of glasses, two pair of glasses on top, sometimes three. So I don't want to talk too long. I have a whole list of stories, but Lou was, I said this at his memorial, it was so ironic. He died of a heart attack since he was really all heart. He was just all heart and soul. I know I speak for everyone. We miss him so much every day. I have a whole list of the stories. We could all talk for an hour or 2 hours about all the little things he used to do. But I'd like to turn it over to my Philly compatriot, Mr. Earl Gardner. So,
Randy.
Thanks, Randy.
Yeah, Randy.
I don't remember when I actually officially met Lou, but I remember not meeting him, but seeing him in Philly with Blood, Sweat, and Tears. And Randy, I remember this club, the Electric Factory, I think it was.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the Blood, Sweat, and Tears was playing there, and I went with a friend of mine. We went to the club to hear them, and they were on a break. And I was kind of running around the club, and that's when I was huge. I was like, it's hard to miss me. And I'm running around the club looking for Lou. I didn't really want to talk to him because I was too intimidated. I just wanted to be in his presence. And I remember walking around the club, they were on a break, and I just happened to, right before they were getting ready to go up on stage, I turned around and he was right there. I almost ran him over, and he had this look on his face and I was like, it's Lou Soloff, and he's like, yeah, and kind of shook hands with him, and he was like, yeah, and split, thinking I think he was glad that I hadn't run him over and squashed him. So. But that's the first time I actually was in his presence. And then after I came to New York, I don't remember when we officially met, but all I know is when we got to know each other, it didn't take long. Like Jon was saying, he kind of took me under his wing. Like Jon kind of did the same thing to me too. And Lou was just like the nicest guy and the craziest guy I've ever met, and one of the greatest trumpet players I've ever met. I was always in awe being in his presence, and when I actually getting a chance to play with him was just I couldn't imagine it. Kind of like with all you guys. Any chance I got to play with you guys, I'd be sitting there secretly thinking, I can't believe I'm sitting here next to Faddis. I can't believe I'm sitting here next to Randy. It was like that. But one of my favorite, I've got a million Lou stories, and one of my favorites was, it's kind of like with it's in the same Carnegie Hall theme. I think this is one Jon was talking about, was we had this concert. I don't know what the concert was for or who it was with, who we were playing for. But before the concert, Jon got the band together and gave us a speech, which was directed at Lou. But we had the whole band together. He didn't want to just single Lou out and say Lou, because every concert Lou would knock over his mutes. It never failed. At some point in the concert, his mutes would hit the floor. So Jon got the band together, and Jon was he told us, listen, this is a real important concert. We can't mess this up. It's really important. There are people out there, and we got to be on top of it. We can't have any dropping of mutes and stuff like that, and the band, we're all standing there kind of looking at John like, yeah, okay. And meanwhile, we're thinking, well, he's talking to Lou. And we all knew that, but, John was John was like, I don't want to single Lou. He didn't want to come over. So Lou's standing there, and Lou, being Lou, is pretty much oblivious to what John's saying. He's off in Lou land, So and we're all like, okay, cool. So I know that place. Band goes out. We walk out on stage. The audience applauds, and then John comes out. He comes walking out. The audience applauds. And John gets the mic. He says, "Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're the Carnegie Hall Jazz Band, and we're very happy to be here tonight. And we're going. The first tune we're going to play is." Meanwhile, Lou's got the mutes on his stool. Because normally he would knock the stool over, but he put his on the stool. And I'm just looking like, this is not going to go well. I just knew this isn't going to happen. And I'm asking Lou, I said, like, Lou, you think that's a good idea? Lou's like, no, it's fine, it's fine. So John's introducing the first tune. And Lou's standing there being Lou. He's fussing around. He's got the mutes up there, but he's down in his gig bag trying to get this. He's got his phone, blah, blah, blah. He's just, Lou never could sit still. So John says, so the first thing we're gonna do is whatever it was. And Lou's standing there, and he all of a sudden he stands up, and he moves over towards his stool. And we're all like watching John, and all of a sudden we hear this crash. He had knocked over his stool, and the mute fell down. And we hear this, and we all look up like, oh shit, pardon me. And we look, and John is standing there, and he hears this crash, and he turns around, he looks at the trumpet, he looks at us, and I'm sitting there thinking, John's gonna kill us all. He's just, and Lou's still not, he's not aware that John's staring at us, and he's down there picking up his mutes, and John's just standing there staring, and Lou finally puts the mutes on his hand and looks up, and he sees John staring at us, and Lou's like a deer with the head in headlights, and John just starts laughing. And it was perfect, because we're all thinking John's going to explode. He gave us this big speech, and then before the concert starts, usually Lou would knock him over during the concert at some point, but this is before the concert starts, before the first tune. He knocks everything over, and John just started laughing, and Lou had this look on his face, and he's like, he looks at me, he's like, wow. I'm just looking, I'm like, Lou, I'm gonna kill you. Because that was part of my job, was to keep Lou, to try to keep Lou in line, which was impossible to do. So we finished the first half of the concert. We come back out the second half, and all the stools are gone. So we get up there for the second half of the concert, and we're standing. I'm going like, what happened to the stools? And Lou's like, I don't know. Where are they? I said, Lou, you got our stool privileges taken away from us. That's when I first met Mike Rodriguez on that. Mike was subbing for Lou. Lou was doing something else. He was going to join the tour after the first week or something. And at the end of the tour, we were recording the music, and we were in Paris, and we did this we recorded this stuff, and there was this one tune, I forget what the name of the tune was, but there was this big long thing at the end, this refrain, kind of like April in Paris, but not like the same, not that kind of thing, but it was just this long melody, just go up and up and up, and it goes up to a high F sharp or something. And we recorded it, and Lou everybody had separate entrances, and Lou kept coming in early on his entrance. And it wasn't like he was reading it. We had been doing this for like 3 or 4 days. So we knew the part. We get to record it. We're recording it, and he comes in early, and I'm holding this F sharp, and he's coming in early. So, okay, we got to do it again. So we did it we must have done it like 5 or 6 times. And the first the first 3 or 4 times, Lou kept coming in early, and I'm like, Lou, what's wrong with you? He goes, I don't know what's going on. Like, I said, like, well, you're coming in wrong. That's what's going on. Like, okay, I'm really sorry. So, like, the 3rd time we do it, it's same thing. The 4th time you do it, same thing. And now I'm starting to die. The 5th time we do it, it's actually starting to feel better. And he looks at me, he goes like, well, you're starting to get warmed up now. And I'm looking at him like, Lou, I didn't need to get warmed up. It's like, you're killing me here. But we finally got it done. And by the time after that thing, I was so pissed at him, I didn't speak to him for the last 2 or 3 days of the tour. He was oblivious. We get to the airport together, and he's going on a different flight, but we went to the airport together, and I didn't say a word to him. I didn't speak to him the whole time. And like, he left. I was going to say bye to him, but his flight left, and he was in a different terminal, so I didn't get a chance to say goodbye to him. So I didn't see him for about a couple months, and we were doing the Mingus band. It was one Thursday at Iridium, and he comes walking, and he was in subbing, not subbing, but he had gotten called for that week, and I hadn't seen him since we were over in Europe, since the Carl tour. So I'm setting my stuff up. So he comes walking in. I'm up on the bandstand, and I see him come walking in, and he looks up, and I look up and I see him, and he comes walking up on the bandstand, and he goes, "Are you mad at me?" And I just looked at him, and all I could do was start laughing. I just gave him this big hug. He says, "I thought you were mad at me." And then I told him, I said, "Well, Lou, I was mad at you because," and I told him what was why. And he's like, I had no idea. And I'm sitting there going like, how could you not have any idea? I didn't speak to you for the last 3 days of the tour. I didn't say one word to him. But that was Lou. Lou was just oblivious, but couldn't stay mad at him. I mean, I could not stay mad at him, and he was incredible. And I just love him. And like Randy Dave said, I miss him every day. And there are times that something will happen, and I'll think, oh, I wish I could call Lou to tell him what just happened. So sorry it's so long, but
that's all right. Thank you.
Thank you.
So now we got our young man that's in Paris. He's been staying up. It's 2 or 3 in the morning for him. I just want to say that the one thing about Lou is that he loved all the trumpet players. So if anybody played or he heard somebody, everybody knew about it. This next trumpet player that's going to talk, I first heard about him when he was 13 or 14. Lou said, "Man, if you heard this kid from Russia play Moto Perpetuo," he had the record. He said, "Man, come in here and listen to this record." I was in his apartment. He put the record on. We were listening to all of the record, and he was like, "This is fantastic." He had the most loving collegial spirit. So we're going to hear now from Mr. Sergei Nakariakov.
Hello, everyone. For me, it's a great honor to be among all of you. And many of you I met through Lou. So I feel very lucky, a very lucky person. The first time I met Lou, it was probably at the end of 90s or the year 2000. I was going to have a concert in Long Island, I think, and we agreed to meet after a phone call. And he brought many instruments and mouthpieces to the meeting. I was very excited to show his stuff. And then he took this funny-looking trumpet, which was a piccolo trumpet, but looked like an ordinary one, just much smaller. And he played absolutely perfectly parts from Brandenburg Concerto. I think my jaw dropped on the floor immediately. And that was the beginning. And I must say that immediately it felt like he was a very close relative to me, a very, very warm person, and really like my uncle, I don't know. And I must say, I didn't really have an uncle with whom I would have such a great contact. and I used every opportunity afterwards to come to his concerts when he was coming to France during many years. And towards the end, I remember I started to get quite worried for his health condition, because somehow during that tour, it felt to me that he was very tired. And when he told me his schedule, I couldn't believe it, how hard it was. And when I learned about his passing, for me, it was a very tragic news, and I miss him so much. Like a very, very close family member.
Yeah,
Right.
Sorry, I don't really have
Beautiful, man.
a very interesting story to tell, but
Beautiful.
No, that's good, man.
That's
to me, this is how it feels.
Your presence is a story. You know, thank you for being here. Thank you for staying up.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you so
man.
Hey, Lou loved you, and we go to see you play, man. You know, you came to New York. He was calling everybody. Hey, man, we gotta come here, our man. And
I
you played
remember.
so fantastic, you know. So thank you for being here. So now we're gonna throw it over to Mr. Greg Gisbert.
hey everybody. It's so great to see everybody and hear these great stories about Lou Soloff. He was a hero of mine from the time I started buying records. If I saw Lou Soloff and Jon Faddis name on a record, I didn't care what the record was. I had to buy it and listen to every trumpet part, try to figure it out. I finally got to meet Lou in New York, and he was so kind and gracious and so excited about the trumpet and music and just hilarious to be around. Well, after getting to meet him, about 10 years went by, and we showed up on a Mingus band gig together in California. And Lou looked at me, and I looked at Lou from toe to head, from bottom to top. We were wearing the same exact New Balance black tennis shoes, the same kind of black Levi's, a North Sea black T-shirt turned inside out so it would look like a black shirt, a black tux coat, the same kind and same strength reading glasses from the same 100 yen shop near the Blue Note in Tokyo. And we had the same Yamaha valve oil. We had the same mouthpiece. And Lou started doing that sort of like soft laugh that he started laughing like that. And I looked at him and I said, "Are you my paw?" And he looked like he saw a ghost. And whenever we would see each other, he would start laughing like that, and it became a thing where, like, that's the only conversation we would have was, "Are you my paw?" And I would wait till he was really deeply involved in changing mouthpieces or really focused on something like that. And sometimes I'd call him up at, a reasonable hour and say, "Are you my paw?" And just listen to him laugh and laugh and laugh. But we became good friends, and he's such a just kind, loving soul and one of a kind person, and feel truly blessed to have known him. He's still a hero, always will be. So thank you for inviting me to be a part of this.
Yeah, you're right, Gizzy. Great, great man. Great, Alex. Yeah.
Yes, besides the New Balance and the T-shirt and the black, the hairline is the same too.
Absolutely. We had both gotten haircuts the day before, so unbelievable.
Okay, Alex, where you at?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm so happy to be here. It's almost like a dream. Anyway, I heard about Lou back in Soviet Union. I think he came to Moscow in 1989 with a Mingus epitaph. And he became famous immediately. And shortly I moved to the United States, and he was one of the first person I met. And it's happened by accident. I was sitting in with some band, and he was having a dinner in a restaurant. And he, for some reason, he liked my playing and invited me to sit in with the 11th Orchestra and Sweet Basil, which they play every Monday. I appear next Monday to Sweet Basil. I play solo on Rhythm Changes, and somehow I end up staying there regularly because of him. And after a couple of times playing Sweet Basil, he told me, "Hey, Sipi, come here. When you're playing your 8 notes, it's not together. It's not really together. With the trumpet section, you kind of Russian." I said, "Well, I am Russian, you know." Basically, he took his time. I remember it's very clear. He took his time and spent actually a couple of times. We spent some time together. He showed me how to articulate, how to practice, how to pay attention to the triplets, how to match the rhythm, trumpet section, how to feel the drums, and everything became so clear. I mean, I still couldn't play for some time, but I knew what should I do to accomplish the next step. And since this time, I'm talking about 1991, we became very close friends. We toured with George Gruhn's band, we played in Mingus band. And at some point, I was almost about to get married, my first wife. And we've been very close. And for some reason, he went to her parents' dinner and said, "Hey, I heard your daughter married Alex Sipiagin. He's a good trumpet player, and also he's a ladies' man." My daughter
God.
I remember she immediately called Randy Brecker, "Hey, who's this guy, Alex Sipiagin, the ladies' man?" So it was kind of a big drama. And next week I saw him in the Mingus band, and he immediately tell me, "Hey, Alex, I just saw you future parents-in-law, and I told him, you're a ladies' man, which is good, right?" I said, I was so mad at him, exactly like Earl was describing before. But anyway, you cannot be mad at Lou. It took me like a couple of hours, and we became even closer friends. And one more little segment. I remember we did our last recording together. It was Rabin Yubing's big band. And Lou invited me to stay over in his apartment. And it was probably like a few months before he passed away. And he asked, "Alex, before we go to my apartment, I want to go to the liquor store." And he asked the guy, "What is the most expensive bottle of vodka in this store?" And of course, guy shows it. "Yeah, here's some, whatever it was, Grey Goose or whatever, Platinum, $250. I said, "Lou, stop it, please, don't do this." But he insisted and bought this bottle of vodka, and we spent all night talking, playing some duos, and it was most sweetest moment. I miss him very much.
Yeah, you're right.
Sasha, if I may interrupt, I just remembered that he was quite passionate about wine, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, right. You know what? I was very surprised, but he was having shot of vodka with me, which is very unusual. He was passionate about wine, but he never drinks those wines.
Lou was very passionate about wine, but he couldn't drink.
Well,
we can't
I'm not making it up.
Spent thousands and thousands of dollars on great wines. I have a case of 47 Petrus. I have a case of 1961 Latour. I have a case of this. But he would have one glass, and that you'd be wobbly.
Well, he had a few shots.
Okay, we're gonna go over to Marcus Printup. Now, I know somebody is gonna talk about Lou and those mouthpieces.
Yeah, I am. Hey man, I was just thinking, just being in this group of all these great trumpet players, and how cool it is just to be in this this conversation, and just thinking about the last time that I was in such an aggregation that was at Clark Terry's funeral, and which is also the last time that I saw Lou Soloff. Many of us saw him because I think the band went on tour to Mexico or something like that next week, and it's just really good to see all y'all. And if I think about co-signers, or just people that taught, just people that just taught you how to have that trumpet etiquette, that trumpet section etiquette. You know, we know what that is and what that can be. One was Marcus Belgrave, who we should do this for as well at some point. Marcus Belgrave, and the other is Lou Soloff. I didn't get a chance to spend much time with him in the trumpet section, but the time I did was just beautiful. I remember just, coming from Conyers, Georgia, little country boy, and just being in the section of Faddis, Soloff, Wynton, I think Nicholas and Ryan Kaiser, same time. And I remember playing a solo, and I felt Lou just like looking at me the whole time. I was so nervous, like, man, why is he looking at me like this? Do I sound like crap? But he was checking me out. And after I played, he said, man, I love your sound. And I thought he was saying that just because he saw I was nervous, but he actually meant it. And he was talking about church and about deacons and, that kind of moan that he wants to check out. I was like, wow. So, just being so humble and just being so accepting, of course, it's training us just how to treat all the young trumpet players and musicians today. So that's because of Lou Soloff, man. And I'll just tell one quick story. We got some great stories on here about the mouthpieces. When we found out that Lou had passed away, I'm pretty sure we were in Mexico City.
Yeah, Mexico.
And we did, yeah. So, I think Ryan had just had shoulder surgery. Gizzy was playing with us, playing lead with us. Kenny Rampton, who's next, Wynton, and myself. So for the encore, the entire day we're just bawling. We're just all sad, So we got through the gig, and for the encore, the rhythm section played. I think we played the blues. Was it the blues we played, y'all?
Blues and G.
Blues and G.
Blues and G. Yep.
We played the blues and G for Lou. So we did like a little dirge, and then trumpet section got in the front row and just played. We just traded courses. So Wynn played, and then Greg played. Gizzy played a solo. He's playing, and then all of a sudden he takes his mouthpiece out, changes his mouthpiece, plays it again. We didn't know what he was doing until oh, he's being Lou. It was so funny. We just broke out with. So we went from crying to laughing. It was beautiful. And then when it was my turn to play, I loosely put my harmony unit in, so it would fall on the ground when I played. Oops. So Lou Soloff, man. And one last thing I'll say about this, about section etiquette that he taught me. I think it was maybe a few years before he passed away. He was playing with us, and there's one passage that he was having problems with. I think he had some chop problems that day, and on the gig when that part came up, he didn't play, and I kind of nudged him. He's like, I was like, oh. So then afterwards he goes, Marcus, if I would just played, it would have sounded horrible. So the best solution is silence. So Kenny, when you hear me laying out on my parts, I'm thinking about Lou. God bless Lou Soloff, man. All right.
Yeah,
Kenny Rampton. Oh. Passing off to Kenny Rampton.
Oh, you got the plunger.
Check it out.
All right. Well, man, thank you for doing this, Wynton. It's just so great to see everybody and hear all these stories. First thing that comes to mind is something that I think Dave Taylor said at Lou's memorial, was that Lou had a way of making everybody feel like they were his best friend. And I think we all pretty much felt that way with Lou. And I, sat and thought about that statement and why was it that way? And it's just because Lou was so open. He had such an open heart, man. He was always sincere. He was always completely for real. And even when for real was just being stupid, and he was the best, man. And he helped me out so much with my career personally, with helping give me confidence. The way John was talking about how you gave Lou confidence, if you say you can't do it, you can't do it. And Lou was that way with me when I started. I was playing lead with the Mingus big band, and I was really nervous about it. And Lou was so encouraging, man. There's so many stories I could tell, but we're getting late here. But I remember one time Lou comes in. We were playing at the Iridium with the Mingus big band. I was playing lead, and Lou was late to the gig, and anybody who's played over the newer Iridium knows you come down the stairs and you come into the club. So we started playing. We're on the bandstand, and Lou comes into the club. I see him come in, see the door open. He comes in, and he's got his trumpet case and another bag with him, and he's wearing all black, and he's running behind behind the audience, around the back, and coming around to the bandstand, and it's just like turmoil, running through the club. And he stops in the back for a second and listens, and then continues on. And then he goes all the way around, and that's a tight bandstand, and he literally climbs over and around the drummer while we're playing to get to the music stand. He gets his mutes out, he gets his mouthpieces out, and Lou, man, he always had at least 5 or 6 mouthpieces with him. He sometimes played 3 mouthpieces in one solo. So he gets all his mouthpieces out, sets them all in a row on the music stand, has the music stand up. I put the music up for him already. He gets his horn out, his trumpet stand, gets everything set, gets up ready to play, and he's wearing these little glasses. And he takes his glasses off. He sets them very delicately on the music stand. Music stand comes crashing down, mouthpieces flying everywhere.
Of course.
Just Lou, man. But one other quick story I want to tell, man. I was on tour with him one time with Dave Matthews' big band, the Manhattan Jazz Orchestra. Not Dave Matthews, the pop guy, the piano player. I always wore the captain's hat. Lou recommended me for that gig. Ryan Kaiser had been in the band and couldn't make a tour, so Lou got me on it. And we were playing, Dave was very famous in Japan, so we were playing big concert halls all throughout Japan. I think this was in Tokyo. Dave Taylor may have been on that tour. No, well, maybe, I don't know. Anyways, one of the tunes we were doing was a feature for Lou. It was Sing, 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 but it was, Dave Matthews did an original arrangement, kind of a quirky little arrangement on it, but he kept some of the original stuff. And one of the things that he kept was the duet, but with the trumpet and drums, the Gene Krupa drum thing. I think the drummer's name was Terry Silverlight, and Lou was playing the trumpet solos. It was a big feature for Lou. So if we were playing in a concert hall where there were stairs going down into the audience, Lou would always go down into the crowd and play to the people, and so this particular concert hall had stairs in the front, but it was a huge hall. It's like 2 or 3 balconies, so he goes down to the audience playing his duet with the drums, and goes in the audience, keeps going further and further back into the audience. And the further away from the bandstand he gets, the more out of time with the drums he gets. So he goes all the way back to the back of the hall. All right, he's way in the back, completely in another time zone, playing, and he's got a clip-on microphone, and the people are loving it. A Japanese crowd, they're very conservative, reserved, very polite, but they were loving it. And Lou has the usher open the door. So he goes out the back of the hall out into the lobby, still playing. We can still hear him loud as day because he's got the wireless mic on. And then we hear a ding, and then the sound starts sputtering, going in and out. And we figured out Lou went into an elevator. So it's losing the wireless connection, right? So it's sputtering in and out, and everybody, the whole audience is looking around. The band is looking around like, where is he? What happened? And then all of a sudden, everything locked into place at the same time. The top balcony, I think it was the 3rd balcony, the door flies open. The wireless mic gets back into the system. You hear Lou playing, and out comes Lou through the door playing. Is like Gabriel entering the room, and the crowd just goes crazy, man. There's a Japanese crowd where they're usually very reserved, and people were jumping up in their seats, screaming and cheering for him. It was unbelievable, man. It was like the door flies open, and boom, there's Lou, completely out of time with a duet. But it just didn't matter. And then he played the cue to set up the band to come back in, and the drummer went with him, and it was just an amazing feeling to be in his presence, man. But I miss him every day, man. I love Lou so much, man. So thanks for doing this, Wynton.
Yeah, you're right.
I think Mikey is next, yeah?
Thank you, Kenny.
Yeah, man.
Right,
yeah, I'll keep it short. Well, when I first came into town in '99, Lou, I studied with Lou when I was at the New School. And my first lesson, he lived upstate during that time, so I took the train to Metro North up there. He picked me up, and in the car, he was playing Sergei Nakariakov CD. So we went back to his place, and we just sat in the driveway and listened to 3 or 4 more tracks of the record. And he's like, man, this kid, oh man, he's unbelievable, right? He's just raving about Sergei, and it was unbelievable. So we get inside the house, and immediately we go to the basement, and there's trumpet cases all over the place. And so he's looking around. I'm holding my horn. It's early in the morning, and he picks out this little tiny trumpet case, and he opens it up, and he pulls out this tiny trumpet, and it had a mouthpiece and everything. I thought it was a toy, but it was an actual trumpet. It might have been that same trumpet that Sergei was talking about.
I think so.
It was tiny, and he's just like, "Here, play this." And I'm meeting him for first time. I pick up the trumpet. I couldn't make a sound out of this thing, I haven't warmed up, nothing. So he takes the trumpet from me and he just giggles and he goes, "You're not a natural trumpet player. You may be a natural musician, but you're not a natural trumpet player." And I was like, and then he gave me one of the greatest lessons that I've ever had. We went upstairs to the living room and he gave me a beautiful lesson that I'll always cherish. One more quick story. Years after, actually Lou was very instrumental in getting me into the scene and getting me to play with different great gigs, Carla Bley and other great gigs. And Faddis, I don't know if Faddis remembers this or not, but he invited me to play with the Carnegie Hall Band, and the trumpet section was Lou Soloff, Mike Mossman, Jim Rotundi, and myself. We played at the New Orleans Jazz Festival, and during the time we rehearsed at the Old Carols, and we were playing that tune, "When You're Smiling." And John rehearsed it. He said, "All right, I'm going to sing a chorus, and then Lou, you're going to come up here and you're going to play the head out, and that'll be the end of the game." Cool. We rehearsed it that way. Boom. Great. We go down to New Orleans. We go to the festival. Blah, blah, blah. We're playing that tune. When Faddis was singing, I think you called an audible, and you said the audience is going to sing one. But Lou was getting ready for his big solo, so he bent over and he grabbed a different trumpet, and John turned around and he said the audience is going to sing a chorus. And so Lou gets up and he missed that cue, so he's getting ready to go up there, and John turns around and he starts conducting the audience. And Lou comes in, "Papa," and Faddis said, "No," and he hit Lou in the stomach. Looked at him and reached out and gave him a chest twister, right? He grabbed him here, and Faddis went, He hit him back, and then Lou was, and I swear to God, it was like two brothers hitting each other. All the while, the audience was, and they're like hitting each other, like, "No!" And then finally, after they did that tussle, Lou came in and just brought the house down. And I remember sitting back there, I was like, "Oh my God, I can't believe I'm waiting to see this. This is one of the greatest moments of my life." And Faddis was like, "What's going on?" And Lou was, it's just so beautiful. It was a great moment. I mean, Lou, I loved him. He loved trumpet players, like Wynton said. He loved everybody here and anybody who played the trumpet, and we always love and remember him for all our lives.
Yeah.
Thank you, Wynton.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, you're right, Mikey. Okay, I want to thank everybody. I don't know how much time we have left. I'm gonna just tell y'all a couple of things, a couple of stories, not long. One is I learned more watching John and Lou than I had ever learned, because just the depth of the love and respect they had for each other. I'm not even talking about how great they played. We cracking jokes about Lou. Yeah, he dropped things. He changed mouthpieces in between songs. But like John and like everybody on this call, but for me, being the age I was and them being immediately older than me, the way that they were playing their horns was unbelievable. I went on a session with them once. They were reading everything. John was talking about he couldn't read. I wasn't used to reading all the time. I remember we played one session and John looked at me and said, "Man, you need to learn how to read." So it's just the clarity they would play with. And then with Lou, it's just the love Lou had for John. It was so for real, and it was in their playing, it was in how they rehearsed. And there was a manifestation of it, which was Clown and Actor City, which we trumpet play. We like to have a good time and play. But
I think you got muted, Wynton.
Yeah, he didn't want me to say it. That's Adam mutes me sometimes. He doesn't want to hear me say these things. But the playing was on such a high level of seriousness, and for so long, and so absolutely you would take it for granted. And with Lou, he could play anything. He played classical music, jazz. He tried out the band that I had with my brother when I was 18 or something, 19. He started playing with them before me. He could play any kind of modern music, New Orleans music, swing era music. He had no prejudice about music, and he would play the hell out of all of it. So I'm gonna just leave you one story about him that says exactly how he was about music. One concert at the New York Philharmonic. Phil Smith was playing, and John went. A bunch of us who played trumpet went to that concert. Phil played the hell out of the Brandenburg. We were all sitting in a row. And Lou was just there. Man, listen to Phil. Listen how Phil plays. Just anytime you would hear somebody, it's always so positive that you went home feeling good and you had more love just kind of the instrument and music by being around him. But seeing kind of the vibe him and John had with each other and to see them as they grow, that just that, when we first heard that Lou had passed away, the first thing I thought was, let me call John. You know, when I got John on the phone, he couldn't say nothing. And it was just that silence had more emotion and feeling in it. That is one of the kind of things I'll remember for my entire life, because it was the depth of something that's so human that, you know, yeah, we joke around and we clown, but there's a thing underneath it that makes all of that stuff funny. And they embodied that for me. And Lou brought that out of all of us. Well, John, they had a thing. One day Lou came to my house with a shofar. So he said, he said, yeah, man, I was up here, I was playing shofar. He said, you ever played shofar? I said, yeah, man, I opened the synagogue on Lexington Avenue. I have a shofar in the other room. He said, really? Let me see it. So I went and got my shofar, and he had his, and he looked at mine, and he looked at the mouthpiece. He said, this is an interesting mouthpiece. So we started playing these shofars. So it was like 6:15 or something we started playing the shofars. And then we started looking at each other, and then some kind of way we started trying to play blues on the shofar. We started playing. Literally 25 minutes passed of us looking at each other, posing and stuff, playing shofars. Then Lou looked at me after like 15 to 20, 25 minutes of it, and he goes, what are we doing, man? I said, man, I don't know, man. But that's how he was. He was about this music. So we don't have time, I think, for questions or anything. I want to thank all of our guests. I mean, everybody's such a fantastic musician. And I'm so happy to have y'all tonight. For this final one we're doing this, I could think nothing more uplifting than to talk about our great colleague and to allow us to be in the service of music and our instrument and talking about it. He was something. And I hope that we always remember him and what he was about, what he represented, and what he taught all of us, and what he meant to not just our instrument, but to musicianship and the collegiality that's a part of being us. And that we be in that spirit as we go forward. So thank y'all very, very much. And
Wynton,
yes.
Wynton, one thing before you say goodbye, Lou's daughter is here, Laura. And I don't know if, Laura, if you would like to say anything, or, you know, she's
Adam,
here.
Can you get her up, Adam?
Yeah, Laura, you should be unmuted.
Okay. Hey, I'm Laura. It was so good to be here. I feel like I can't talk for very long because I'm like, just needed to hear from my dad today, you know? And like, I'm very moved by everything that y'all said, and miss him every day. And, you know, I get to hear him, like, he lives on through you guys and his music. And it was really a gift to be here. So thanks.
Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
John, you want to take us out?
Well, you know, with all of the COVID-19, with all of the things going on with race relations, with our lack of leadership, Lou was one of the, he's the only person I ever met, didn't see color, didn't matter. You know, in his own way, he was very, very spiritual. You know, he practiced, you know, his diet during the holidays and all that stuff. He took me to Moishe Peking to eat, I don't even know what that is. It's bad Chinese food that was kosher. But first big band arrangements that I ever arranged was written for Lou and dedicated to him. And one of the things he used to always say when he would go to a restaurant and the food would be so-so, Dave Taylor knows this. Dave Taylor used to say, man, you burned me all the way through Europe, but you didn't say the game was fresh. One of the things that Lou would always say is, this is the best I've found. And I wrote a piece for Lou called The Best I Found, because he was the best friend that I'd found. So everyone, thank you. Wynton, thank you for doing this. Thank your staff, Adam, Gabby. You know, he was very special. I'm kind of responsible for his excessive use of mouthpieces because you're playing a 5C and you're trying to play up there, you're crazy. So I said, here, Lou, try this. And he tried some of my mouthpiece, had some made, and then that was it. So he would switch mouthpieces in the middle of a phrase in a solo. And but he would always do it gracefully, and it was always for the music. And that's the kind of man he was. He loved music. He loved the trumpet. But all of those that he helped, myself, Randy, Kenny Rampton, Earl, Mike Rodriguez, Marcus, Wynton, Sergei, Giz, he loved all of you, or all of us.
Right.
Alex Sipiagin, Laura, you don't know how proud he was of you. And Lena as well. And one last thing I would say is, Earl,
sir,
Japan, to you. No, actually, I wanted to say Earl, Alvin Ailey, intermission, first tune. Earl took a quart of water and poured it down Lou's trumpet. Lou had his trumpet on the stand.
No. 3 trumpets.
And then he picked one up and just water going all over the Alvin Ailey.
He had 3 trumpets. Why, I don't know. But he had 3 of them. We filled all of them up.
But
and so when we came back, every time he picked up a trumpet, water would come flying out. And pick up the next one.
Thanks. Lou loved and was loved by all, and I miss him. Laura, you're very special. So was Lena. And thank you, everyone, for being there. For Louis Michael Soloff.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Thank y'all.
Thank
Adam, you got it.
Great to see everybody.
Thank you, everybody. Really, just want to say thanks to Wynton and to each one of our guests tonight. You heard from Jon Faddis, Randy Brecker, Earl Gardner, Michael Rodriguez, Kenny Rampton, Marcus Printup, Sergei Nakariakov, Greg Gisbert, Alex Sipiagin, and Dave Taylor. And lastly, a big thank you to all of you for joining us tonight and for being here every week. As I mentioned at the top of this show, tonight is our last episode of Skain's Domain before a 2-month summer break. It's been a real pleasure being here with you guys every Monday night at 9, and we'll be back in September for more Skain's Domain. And finally, please do keep an eye out for the exciting new summer programs that we'll be launching in the meantime. You can find more information on our website at jazz.org, as well as on our social media channels. And we'll see you around soon. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Wynton.
All right.
Hey, guys.
Thank you.
All right, y'all.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Much love, respect. Thank y'all so much.
Okay.